adequate decibel level throughout the chambers.
Stream audio check. Check 1, 2.
Check mic 1, 2. Check volume 1, 2.
Hi, Counselor Barr. Can we test your audio, please?
Good morning.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our meeting of the Brampton's Audit Committee. I'll start with roll call. Councillor Vincente. Councillor Vicente. Councillor Brar.
Present.
Councillor Paleshi. Councillor Tour. Councillor Tour? No? Okay. Member Russell? Present. And I'll go back to the vice chair. I see him online. So, Councillor Vicente?
I'm
Great.
present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, next is approval of the agenda. Do any members wish to add any business to today's meeting? Seeing none. Declarations under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act or for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will so note for the minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, didn't do that. Yeah, so we have approval of the agenda moved by Councillor Paleshi. All those in favor? That carries. Committee, as part of our consent motion process, I'll read the agenda items that are subject to the consent motion, and any member may verbally identify the item to be held for debate during the meeting. Any item not held for debate will be considered as part of the consent motion and voted on for approval. I'll start by reading the relevant agenda items, and members can identify any items to be held for debate. 6.1, staff report and presentation for transit revenue audit. Oh, no, that's going to be held. 6.2, staff report, internal audit work plan, status update, Q4 2025. Is on consent. 6.3, staff report, corporate ethics hotline quarterly report, Q4 2025. That is on consent. 7.1, which is the KPMG audit plan, will be held for the presentation by a representative from KPMG. In closed session, we have 11.1, presentation by Millennium, Brampton Public Library. Hold the presentation. Is that report for that? That report is for that presentation, so we just hold both, 11.2, 11.1. Hold the report. And then we have the closed presentation, management action plan, validation, 2025 IT and cybersecurity. And we'll hold that. So we'll hold all of the in camera. The clerk will summarize those items to be included in the consent motion for approval.
Through you, Chair, the following items are included on the consent motion. 6.2, staff report, internal audit work plan status update, and 6.3, staff report, corporate ethics hotline quarterly report.
Right, so I have a motion moved by Councillor Vicente to approve the consent motion. All those in favor? The motion carries. So that'll bring us to presentations. So the first one up is the presentation by Maria, the lead edit. Maria is the lead audit engagement partner at KPMG regarding KPMG audit plan for the 2025 fiscal year. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, amazing. Thanks for the opportunity to speak here today. I will be taking you through our audit planning report that is currently presented on the screen. So this is first of two presentations that KPMG provides you as part of the audit engagement. This one provides you with an overview of our audit planning decisions and some of the discussion items there. And then once we complete the audit, we come back to you sometime in June to provide you with our audit findings report. So with that, I'll take you quickly through some of the key highlights here. So if we can please advance the slides to page 4, which is our audit highlights page. Okay, so our plan, the audit plan has been developed based on our discussions with management, and we've updated our detailed procedures where necessary due to the changes in the city's operations or changes in the general economic environment. So it's current as per the situation at hand this year. On page 4, we have some key items noted here in terms of materiality, any changes from our plan from last year, involvement of others, required inquiries, and some of our significant risks, which I will cover through some of the slides in the next few pages. On page 5, we've highlighted new accounting standards that are coming into effect for this year and for the next few years. The good news is that there are no new accounting standards that are going to be impacting year ending December 31st, 2025, both for accounting and auditing standards. But the not so good news is that there are new accounting standards that will be coming down the pipeline for later years, so fiscal 27 and onwards. So we'll be working with management to make sure that they're apprised with the requirements of these new standards as we work through these changes. With that, we move on to pages 6 to 8, where we talk about materiality. Materiality is the amount that we use for scoping, determining sample sizes, and assessing misstatements. We use a much smaller threshold, which is the audit misstatement posting threshold. So if we can advance the slide one more to page 7, we've noted here, which is 5% of our materiality. That amount is what we use for the purposes of assessing if there are any adjustments that are identified during the course of the audit. Whether they're corrected or uncorrected, we're required to bring them to you as part of our audit findings report. So on page 7, we have the group materiality, which is for the consolidated city of Brampton. And on page 8, we have the non-consolidated materiality for the non-consolidated city, which is a little bit lower to address the aggregation risk. With that, we move on to page 9, which provides you with an overview of some of the other individuals and parties that are involved during the course of the audit. Similar to last year, there is an actuary involved by the City of Brampton to assess the liability related to employee future benefits. Correspondingly, from KPMG, we have an actuarial specialist that reviews the report from management's actuary. No change there. So moving on to page 10, we provide you with an overview of our scoping. It gets a little technical, but at a high level, what we're saying here is for the consolidated City of Brampton audit, we're providing you with very good coverage, which is 99% of your numbers are fully audited as part of our audit engagement. Okay, moving on to page 11. So we've provided you with our summary of risk rating. This basically determines how we test as part of our audit engagement. The key thing maybe I can point out here is the risk of fraud is only related to management override of controls. We've rebutted the risk of fraud from revenue recognition, and it doesn't pertain to any of the other items that are noted on this slide. Pages 12 and 13 talk about our significant risks. So management override of controls, we talk about it every year. It's a presumed risk that is required to be incorporated in all of the audit engagements. So it's not specific to City of Brampton. We complete these procedures every year, and we bring back any findings as a result of our audit procedures. In the past, we've had no issues regarding this, but nonetheless, we continue to complete these procedures every year. On the next slide, we talk about revenue recognition fraud risk. So this is a change from last year where we rebutted this risk, and that's a change that we've made across the board for all of our municipal files, because we continue to see that there's no real incentive for revenue to be incorrectly recognized or fraudulently recognized. That's not to say that we don't complete a robust comprehensive audit of our revenue numbers for the City of Brampton. We do have a very detailed approach for testing revenue. All that this slide is saying is that there's no fraud risk related to revenue recognition, which is consistent with what we see in the sector with other municipalities. Moving on, so I'm not going to cover slides 14, 15, and perhaps 16. These are all just to provide you with an overview of our audit procedures. This is not a comprehensive list. It's just to give you an idea of the type of audit procedures that we complete for the various different sections of the financial statements. With that, if we can advance the slide one more to maybe one more to 18. So these are required inquiries. Maybe I'll take a quick minute to explain. So these are required by the Canadian auditing standards for us to complete with those charged with governance. We've already completed these inquiries with management and your treasurer, but if there is anything on this slide that kind of catches your attention and you want to talk to me about it, my contact information is included on the second page of this report. So please feel free to reach out as needed. Next slide, please. So this slide and the next one, we provide you with an overview of our timelines. These timelines have been discussed with management. They're in line with audit committee timelines to make sure that we're providing you with our final report in time for your June meeting. Okay. So the next few slides, 21, 22, 23, they talk about audit quality. There is a link to our transparency report, which is an important document from your perspective to make sure that your auditors are in good standing. We're doing everything in our power to make sure that our audit quality stays the highest it can. And there is a robust framework behind each engagement that we complete to make sure that our audit quality stays at the highest level possible. So I won't go into too much detail, but all this information is available for you to help you understand all that KPMG does to uphold the highest level of audit quality. And with that, we get into the appendices. So I'll leave the appendices for you to take a look at. We do try to curate and bring the most relevant topics forward for municipalities. So they are very much relevant, but I won't go into the details of them in the interest of time. So that concludes the formal part of my presentation. I'll pause here if there are any questions.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any questions. I think everyone here is good with it. So I really appreciate your time and thank you for your presentation. We have a motion moved by Member Russell to receive the presentation. All those in favor? That carries. That'll bring us to item 6, which was the staff report for transit revenue. And I know Claire would like to introduce this presentation.
Thank you, Chair. For the transit revenue audit, the work was carried out by Brad Cecile, Min Peng, Sahil Sharma, and Baran Iyer from Internal Audit. I'd like to acknowledge and thank transit management staff for their cooperation throughout this engagement, particularly Ivana Thomas, Director of Transit Services, Michael Kieran, Manager Transit Business Services, Carol Ogilvie, Manager Business Systems, Heather McDonald, Manager Customer Experience, Vincent Rodo, Manager Project Administration and Negotiation, and Jared Jensen, Supervisor Transit Accounting and Employee Support Services. Transit staff worked closely with the internal audit during the engagement and were very diligent and responsive in reviewing the draft report. We appreciate their clarity and collaboration in helping us finalize the findings and draft report. I would also like to thank Heidi Dempster for her leadership. Brad and Min will be co-presenting the report with Ivana to the committee today. Brad, here's to you.
Thank you, Claire, and good morning, everyone. Like Claire mentioned, this will be a co-presentation. So I will begin the presentation, and then I will turn it over to Min, who will present findings number 1, 2, and 3. And then I will present findings number 4, 5, 6 before turning it over to Transit, who will address each of the 6 management action plans. Next slide, please. This audit aimed to assess whether Brampton Transit has effective governance and oversight over revenue collection and reporting, adequate controls to ensure that fair revenue is complete and accurately recorded, efficient processes for reconciliation, cash handling, and system access management, and appropriate performance monitoring and analysis to identify unusual or unexplained variances in fair revenue and to support financial sustainability. Our audit scope covered transit revenue activity for the period of January 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025. The audit methodology included reviewing policies, procedures, contracts, and agreements related to transit revenue collection and management, interviewing transit staff involved in fare collection, reconciliation, and reporting processes, performing walkthroughs at Clark, Sandalwood, and transit terminals to observe controls and system functionality, conducting sample testing and data analytics on fare transactions, reconciliations, and deposits to assess the efficiency and effectiveness of transit processes, reviewing monitoring and reporting practices for Presto device availability, advertising revenue, and fare media inventory, and observing bus rides across different routes to assess fare payment practices and evasion. I will now turn it over to Min, who will address findings number 1 to 3.
Thank you, Brad. So I will start with audit observation 1. Reconciliation of bus fare transactions between the subsystem and central system needs strengthening. Before getting into the detailed observation, I would like to walk through this process flow to provide context on how bus fare transactions move through the Presto system. If you follow the green arrows, you can see on the top left corner of the chart, the process begins on the bus. The bus fare transaction processor captures every tab, whether it's a Presto card, a mobile wallet through the Presto app, or an open payment, which is the debit card or credit card. Those transactions are then transmitted via cellular network to the Presto device software, or PDS for short. PDS is also what we call the Presto subsystem, which stores transaction data across the buses. In the top right corner of the chart, you will see how the data then moves from the subsystem into the Presto central system. The central system is what Metrolinx uses for settlement, revenue reporting, and monthly financial reconciliation with the city. This is the source that determines how much revenue Brampton Transit receives. So it is important that Brampton ensures all of the bus fares make their way through the entire process and into the central system. There is currently a report called Taser Report that serves as a key control to reconcile ridership and revenue data between the subsystem and central system. However, we found that this report does not capture transactions through open payment and mobile wallet payment options. The option to pay by debit card, credit card, or Presto app were introduced in 2023 and have increased rapidly from 9% in Q1 2024 to over 45% in Q2 2025. Not reconciling these payment methods can lead to missed revenue and understated ridership going undetected. We recommend that Transit expand the reconciliation process between the Presto device subsystem and the central system, and incorporate open payment and mobile wallet transactions to ensure all fare revenue is accurately reconciled and reported. Next slide, please. Audit observation 2. Process for monitoring and analyzing fare evasion needs strengthening. Bus operators are required to record fare evasion, and there is a monthly report showing evasion totals. To better understand fare evasion, internal audit staff rode city buses throughout October to observe instances of non-payment and noted the following. Fare evasion is not always noticed or recorded by operators. The rate of evasion reported in the fare box for 2024 was 0.47%. However, based on 1,073 boardings, audit observed an evasion rate of 2.1%. Currently, Brampton Transit does not conduct comprehensive analysis of fare evasion data or utilize independent reviews such as ride-along audit to observe fare evasion. Both of these practices were in place prior to 2021, but has since been discontinued. Without accurate recording, analysis, and independent observation of fare evasion, high-risk roads and evasion trend cannot be identified, and the true impact of evasion might be underestimated. We recommend that Transit reinforce expectations and provide refresher training to operators to ensure fare evasion is more consistently recorded. conduct a comprehensive annual analysis of fare box evasion data to identify trend and pinpoint higher risk roads. We instate independent observation to validate fare box data, understand the context of fare evasion, and support enforcement planning. Consider developing an enforcement pilot business case where sustained high evasion is confirmed. Next slide, please. Yeah. Audit observation 3. Revenue reconciliation process needs strengthening. Transit performs a monthly reconciliation to compare fare revenue reported in the daily settlement report from the Presto Central System with the amount deposited into the city's bank account, and then prepares the corresponding journal entry details for posting in PeopleSoft. A review of monthly reconciliations noted that in May and June 2025, some transactions were recorded twice, resulting in an overstatement of revenue of $770,000 and $475,000 respectively. The duplicate entries from May and June impacted the accuracy of 12 GL accounts. We recommend that Transit enhance the current monthly reconciliation process. I will now pass it back to Brad to continue with the remaining observations.
Okay, thank you, Min. That leads us to audit observation 4. Process for cash probing and reconciliation variances needs improvement. Fareboxes on each bus automatically record cash transactions. The extraction of the cash box unit and uploading of cash fare data, also known as probing, is completed at the transit facilities before funds are counted and reconciled. Our review of the cash probing and reconciliation process noted the following. The frequency of bus probing is inconsistent. There is no established standard or schedule for probing activity at the bus or operation center level. The investigation of cash variances is also inconsistent. In 7 instances, a variance of plus or minus 4% or more for at least 3 consecutive days occurred. However, there was no documentation on file explaining the discrepancies, despite this being required in the SOP. In addition, there were 9 single-day variances greater than 10%, yet only the negative variance was investigated. We recommend that Transit should update the cash handling and variance monitoring process. Specifically, the process should include define and communicate probing frequency and monitor compliance to ensure consistent probing across the fleet, and reestablish variance thresholds for both consecutive day and single day variances that trigger mandatory investigation, including identifying the root cause and corrective actions. Next slide, please. Audit observation 5. Advertising revenue statements should include bus level traceability. Brampton Transit contracts a third-party vendor to manage bus advertising and remit a minimum guaranteed amount, plus a top-up when revenues exceed this amount. Our review of advertising revenue noted that the vendor's quarterly reports provide gross and net revenue, as well as allowable commissions. However, we also noted that the quarterly reports do not include an inventory of specific buses used for advertising or a list of the advertising space available to the city, both of which are required under the executed agreement. Transit should ensure that the bus advertising vendor adheres to contractual reporting requirements in order to promote transparency and traceability. Audit observation 6. Process for updating A to G and Presto user access needs improvement. Our review of the system access lists for both A to G and the Presto web portal noted the following. A to G access for new hires and departing employees is managed effectively. However, the removal of access for transit staff transferring internally is not consistent. As of October 2025, 3 employees who transferred from the transit terminals to transit maintenance still had access to A to G. 2 of these employees transferred in 2023 and the other in 2024. Also, Presto access is not consistently updated when employees leave the city. 2 employees who departed the city in June 2025 were still showing as active users on the Presto access report generated in October 2025. Transit should implement a process to review and remove A to G and Presto system access when employees change roles or leave the city to reduce the risk of unauthorized transactions and ensure compliance with system security standards. Overall, the control environment around the administration of Brampton Transit's revenue is generally adequate. The Presto system supports robust financial reporting. Standard operating procedures are in place in all critical areas. Controls and oversight are evident at the transit terminals, and key transit performance ratios are regularly monitored and benchmarked to ensure accountability. However, opportunities exist to enhance the accuracy, consistency, and integrity of transit revenue processes. Strengthening fair revenue reconciliations, enhancing fair revenue analysis and monitoring, formalizing bus probing and variance procedures, reinforcing advertising reporting requirements, and improving access management will further safeguard transit revenues and support the city's long-term financial objectives. Implementing the recommended actions will address these gaps and improve the overall efficiency and accountability of the city's transit revenue activities. Now I will turn it over to Transit, who will address each of the 6 management action plans.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Oh, now I hear myself too well as well. Good morning, members of council. And before I start to walk you through the management action plan, I'd just like to thank the audit team. It's been truly a 6-month collaboration to have their insight and expertise on our processes, and we always welcome their set of eyes to help us improve on what we do. So to address the first management action plans is reconciling the reconciliation between the subsystem and the central system. As Min walked through, it's quite a complex situation with Presto, how these two work. So we are working with our information technology team, and they've been great along this process as well. We will be working with them at looking at enhancing the current BI tool that we use in the corporation to allow the data that we get from Presto to be able to reconcile these two systems. So we are going to be working with them. Transit will be leading this project, obviously with IT support as we go through, and the goal is to complete this by the end of Q2 of 2026. However, I will say we anticipate that we may need some Presto support, so we will work diligently with Metrolinx and our internal IT team to accomplish this. Next slide, please. Enhance fare evasion recording and monitoring analysis. This we will continue to do with our operations and maintenance team. We are continuing with the operator refresh in 2026, and we have already issued a bulletin reminding operators of their duties to record the fare evasion. We'll be looking obviously at a comprehensive annual look at all of our high-risk routes and looking at bringing back the mystery shopper program. If warranted, we will be reviewing the enforcement policies and also transit agencies of what they do with a fare enforcement team, and these all will be complete by the end of Q4 of 2026. Next slide, please. Strengthening our monthly revenue reconciliation and review. We are looking to implement more checks and balances than we currently have. Obviously looking at the GL, what comes into the bank, the Presto journals that we do. We are also updating a comprehensive guidebook, I should say, on how to do that, and we are meeting regularly with staff that complete that work, and also looking at segregating some of the duties amongst the staff that we currently have on hand to support this work. This will be done by the end of Q1 of 2026. For the probing and variance monitoring, our operations team has already initiated a 30-day pilot conducting more consistent fare box probing, and we're going to be looking at that to see with the decline in cash fares, how often do we need to do it, what is the threshold, and also looking at updating our SOPs. The threshold and all these discussions will take place amongst the transit leadership team to make sure that we are in line with the data that we see, and this will be complete by the end of Q1 of 26. enforcing contractual reporting requirements for advertising vendor. We have a few advertising vendors, and the one in regards to, we were speaking to the audit team with this one, we have already contacted them. They will be sharing their Q1 reports on all the ads on the buses and the availability with what we have as an organization to advertise as well. And these quarterly statements will also be shared with our colleagues in strategic communications as they administer the allocation of advertising on behalf of the city. What is our allotment? And improving the system access management. This is related to members, team members leaving between transit departments and making sure that we remove their access to A2G and the Presto web portal. This is well underway, and we will be looking at working with IT if we need to improve the process, how we communicate with them as well. This will be complete in Q4 2025, but we'll also be taking a look at this across all other software and applications in transit. The team will be looking at that in 2026 as well.
Okay, thank you, Ivana, for that. In terms of next steps, action plans have been developed. As you just heard, implementation for the plans is either underway or already completed. And internal audit will follow up and report on the status of these action plans as they become due. And with that, that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have some questions, so I'll turn it over to Member Russell.
Thank you. Oops, is this on?
Yeah.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. So thank you. Through the chair, I have a few questions. First of all, I want to say thank you. As a citizen member, this was very eye-opening to learn more about the transit system and all the work that's involved in the background. Did have some questions just to help me understand a bit more. Perhaps we could go back to the presentation and to the visual aid of the flow, which thank you very much. I'm very visual, so that was very helpful. I just want to make sure I understand a couple of pieces of the puzzle. So one, the DSR, does that include both the Presto data and also credential card and open payment transactions? Are they all included in the daily settlement report?
Through the chair, yes, so the DSR include both the open payment, credential card, and store value transactions. They are. However, because right now we don't do the reconciliation between the subsystem and central system, we do, but it's just for store value. So the open payment and credential card are not included currently. So that's why we want to have that to incorporate.
Right, so all you're seeing really is in the TASER report, kind of the Presto transactions, you're seeing that your DSR has a higher material value of transactions, so you know they're going through. So the issue is not, I'm just trying to understand if the issue is with the system flow, like I want to make sure revenues are being appropriately recorded ultimately. We think they are. The reporting, the BI reporting that we're going to enhance is what will help us confirm that. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. More questions, Mr. Chair. Okay. So I know I read in the report that there's benchmarking that's been conducted. I wondered if any benchmarking had been conducted with other similar sized cities regarding the average rate of fare evasion.
So through the chair, in terms of getting data for fare evasion, it was hard to come by. A couple sources of information we were able to obtain. There was a smaller Ontario municipality that had an evasion rate of 2% that was published. We also connected with a peer municipality here in the GTA, and they tracked their fare evasion through a dashboard. And when we connected with them in November, year to date, they were at 1.8%. So close to 2%, which is what we found through our physical observation on the bus rides.
Right. Thank you. That's helpful, Brad. And I also recognize, obviously, those statistics are only as good as the tracking, right? But with that in mind, like all this tracking is great, but ultimately it's what we do with that information. So I know that was item D, like kind of the last action plan there, which was talking about enforcement. So I guess that's what I'd like to understand a little better is, say we get better at tracking, we identify these high-risk routes. What happens then? So how do we enforce that, and what kind of costs would be involved with that? Because I guess you'd have to have a business case that says, okay, the costs of enforcement are lower than what we expect to bring in by enhancing our enforcement. Do we have best practices on that?
I'll take that question if may. So actually for this particular issue that you are requesting, we actually visited the Mississauga My Way Fair Invasion Enforcement, thank you, Fair Invasion Enforcement Unit. Mm-hmm. So we actually were there, basically did a site visit and discussions with them. And they apparently thought the enforcement unit was very effective. They've just requested another 9 people. So they have quite a bit of people going, and they also connect themselves with the security of Mississauga. So they're working together, basically, maintaining fair, to help preventing fair evasion, but also maintaining order within Mississauga, and they said that works really, really well. And they did give us some preliminary budget in terms of costing information. Like, for instance, we estimated in our report, if you hire 6 people, considering the starting up cost, considering training, and you have to give them car to move around, right? So we estimate if you hire 6 people, you might be costing the startup cost is $1 million. Now, if you add additional people, it might become less just because you have already set up that unit. There's also some software costs that you have to consider too, because you need to be sitting in the control room to be able to monitor it. That's why they were teaming up with their security people.
Thank you, that's helpful. Oh, thank you. Better? Oh, apologies, I have a lot of scribbles. But my other question through the chair is regarding the average fare that you use to size some of the impacts. And I know you used, I don't know if you say CUTA or CUTA, but that data. And when I went on, I noticed that you can kind of play around with the BI interface, and what they show initially is really for, it looks like all of Canada. When I look at Ontario, the rate seemed higher than what was used in the sizing here, but I'm wondering if it's a function of, I believe what they show on what I can access, which is probably limited, is adult fares. Was the average used kind of representative of the GTA and of kind of all fares?
Yes, I'll take that one as well. So the fare that we use for calculation in our report is the average fare within city of Brampton. So you're considering different fares because that's the only way, because we don't know who's evading. So the child fare, the students fare, the adult fare, plus also some people have passes, it's lower fare. So we looked at the average fare across the board in this particular case. And if you look at the sum that you have, it's in hundreds of thousands, because this is one input from our transit staff. They feel like because we're calculating everything on an estimate basis, it's better we've rounded to the, nearest the hundreds, thousands, or, or 50,000. Okay.
For sure. Thank you. That's helpful. I think I'll stop my questions there. I think there were more just out of my curiosity, but I'll ask one question out of curiosity since I have a captive audience here. How many buses are in circulation per route per day on average?
We have a total of 530 buses in our fleet between the 2 garages between Clark and Sandalwood. And on average, we have more than 350 buses in service every day. I wouldn't have the details of exactly how many on every route, but we do have a good chunk of our buses that are Zoom buses, obviously, and those go along our Zoom BRT lines. But we have quite the growing fleet. Since I have a captive audience as well, we have 18 electric buses, which is great, so we continue to green the fleet. But it's quite a large operation. So, and I do know, I believe we are larger than Mississauga, or getting larger than Mississauga as well, so.
Wow. Thank you. I think I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Russell. Always great questions. Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm gonna ask about the advertising, the cash probing, and then the fare evasion. Let's start with the fare evasion and walk me through kind of what a fare evasion looks like on any given day.
Through the chair. So we, the one thing we did is we looked at the 20 busiest routes from 2024, and we had a member of internal audit sit on a bus and just observe operator activity and observe fare evasion throughout October. So we, through the 20 routes, we ended up taking about 20 routes. There was about 50 segments of included in that project, and we observed about 1,073 boardings. Out of those 1,073 boardings, there was a conservative amount of evasions being 23. So, and when I say conservative, there was a few instances where we were giving the rider the benefit of the doubt. So if it looked like they were a senior person, but they didn't pay and they didn't swipe a card and they just kind of got on, we gave them the benefit that they were a senior. So there was a few examples of that. But in terms of the evasion, I guess I would say each evasion is kind of different. If you had to break it up into buckets, there was about a third of the evasions that weren't observed by the operator because they were preoccupied with another passenger. And then for the remaining evasions that they did see, in most cases there was it wasn't just a brazen somebody just getting on the bus and sitting down. In almost all cases, there was kind of a dialogue, so a short conversation between the passenger and the operator. So it could be the person didn't have money, or they forgot their card at home, or they had a transfer but they lost it. So there was usually a short exchange between the driver and the passenger, and then the operator would just tell him to take a seat.
So they never witnessed anybody asking for the person, any operator asking the person to leave the bus?
Yes, that was observed. That was definitely observed at the depots where the bus is stationary, and people had come on without paying, and then the bus did not move until those people got off.
Okay.
Yes, but it's also, and Ivana can correct me, but I know it's part of their policy to never confront a passenger over any sort of fare dispute.
Sorry, repeat this. It's part of the policy to which?
As part of their kind of the operating guidelines for the operators, they're never supposed to confront a passenger over any sort of fare dispute, just for their own safety. If there's a rider who's not paying, they remind them of the policies and the requirement to pay, but there's never any sort of I guess physical attempt or anything like that to remove a passenger from the bus.
Physical, no.
No.
They asked them to leave, right?
Yes.
Right.
Sorry, if I may just, through the chair, jump in here. And I think Councillor Palacio was asking, what does it look like when there's a fare evasion on the buses? So through our experience, because all of us rode the buses in October, so some people just come in without tab, just went away and sat down, right? And sometimes
in the front, or sorry, go ahead.
They will come in, just not tab or not paying, not dropping cash, and just went to the back of the bus and sat down, right? So there are instances like that. But we also have seen operators challenging there, because there are some people coming up and you obviously notice that they didn't pay. So the operator actually did challenge them. And in one case, one of our staff ran into that. They called police. They came very fast, within 5 minutes, and the person was taken off by a few officers off the bus.
Well,
and
good.
bus
I don't want
reserve.
us to be the, you know, the, it's a company, but I don't want our buses to be the ones that are known for, yeah, we just get on, don't worry about it. Like it's, I'm glad that that's happening. I would never want an operator to put themselves in danger, but that being said, you know, words are powerful, and the operators, through any kind of, you know, education and support and help from us, should be that conversation is at least had, and the bus doesn't move until the person exits the vehicle.
Through the chair, yes, we do have a policy that our operators obviously abide by. They are to remind passengers to pay, and we never want them to be in harm's way. You know, that's why we do have those shields to protect them. They do go through a lot through the day, but they do remind the passengers, and if it gets to a situation that is potentially contentious, they do have the ability to call our control center, and then we do send out on-road supervision. If that is escalated, obviously, that situation was with police, they do have the ability to call police through control as well.
Okay, because essentially we could take this number, and this is one bus for one month, multiple routes, but one individual. So times that by 330-ish, that becomes somewhat of a number, less, and plus and minus depending on the routes and everything like that. I'm sure there's other routes that are higher than others. Do we have anybody trying to get into the back door? Is there ever
No, we don't,
side door?
yeah, no, but Brampton is different from TTC in that regard. TTC lets passengers come in both doors, but Brampton only lets passengers come in the front door. So they're essentially right in the line of sight of the operator.
Right, okay. And then is there anything in terms of technology that we could help with supporting the operators in trying to just manage whatever's happening that they're dealing with? Has there ever been that discussion? Is our operators suggesting any?
Through the chair, well, we do have cameras on our buses, which obviously protect the operator and the passengers. I think one of the line items here, as we're looking through this, that we will be looking at technology to see what's out there these days, obviously with the use of AI. There potentially might be something, but we'll be working closely with our internal business systems teams and corporate IT to see if there's anything more that we can do to enhance that.
Okay. I'm gonna move to cash probing. And I really I don't fully understand, what these, the 770,000 and 475,000, actually mean in terms of, what is being reported here. I'm wondering if there's, their monthly reconciles should, that have occurred, for the revenues, and what's being reported, is there a possibility that there wasn't a duplicate, I think, what do you call when you used it, you said they're recorded twice. Is there a possibility that there was actually two separate transactions? And if not, how? Why?
So I'll start taking these questions, and if we go deeper, I'll ask Min to help with this. So for the 770,000 and the other number that was big, it was not because, it's because we received the amount, but it's just that how we record it on books. We record it twice on books because the way we do our reconciliation. So there's actually not two set of transactions. We just did two sets of recording. It's one set of transactions we recorded twice.
How do we know, sorry, Claire, and I need to know, how do we know that we did that? That it was
Because
recorded
we
twice?
combed it through, we did the reconciliation ourselves. We combed through all of the deposit.
So it's because of the money?
Yes.
Okay.
So-
Is there any opportunity where that money was taken out before it was deposited?
No.
What, how?
It was because they were appearing at the beginning and the ending of the month, and we were counting it twice. That's because when we do the reconciliation, we do at the total level. Whereas if you do transaction by transaction level, you'll actually discover that. That was one of the things we wrote about.
you do
Perhaps I'll
transaction by
ask Min to
transaction.
explain a little
because-
bit further. She did all the combing herself. Okay.
Thanks, Claire.
Yeah, through the chair. So what happens is, on a monthly basis, transit staff download the DSR detailed transactions for this month, right? So for example, this month is 1 million, kind of, right? And next month, when I do the same reconciliation, I need to download next month's transaction and do the journal. But when I download the transactions, I kind of download the same transaction for the same date on the last month and this month. So that's why there is duplication.
So times added up in terms of, and then you saw the amount of transactions added, or the amount of records for the passenger getting on was added up. That's how you were able to say, well, there isn't the cash there, but because these 2 days are the same, or
Yes.
or these 2 rides, or whatever it was. So it's a machine issue?
No, it's just when we download the transaction to do the journal, we should download from January 1st to January 31st for January this month. And next month, actually, I download from January 31st again. So I have January 31st
I didn't see that. Okay.
for last month and then for February as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's go advertising. Can you explain to me again the minimum guaranteed amount and what is the top up? When the revenues exceed the minimum?
Through the chair, the vendor agreement we have with the advertising, and we have 3 different ones. We have an advertising vendor for the benches, one for the transit shelters, and then another one for the buses. The bus is the most significant. It's about $1 million a year. So the agreement is that we get at least, I believe it's 80,000 or 85,000 a month as a minimum, and then anything over and above that amount, we get 55% of the revenue, and then the vendor gets 45%. So that's the agreement there with the top up. So we're guaranteed the roughly 80,000, 85,000 every month, but anything over that 85,000, we keep 55%, and then the vendor keeps 45%.
But the vendor wasn't telling us about.
Well, the vendor was providing gross and net revenue and allowable commissions in their quarterly reports. So they were, showing us all the total amount of money, and their 45% and our 55%, and all that checked out. But what they weren't sending is a report showing a detailed inventory of the specific buses that are being used to generate revenue. So without that, it's very hard to know if there's, say, perhaps they were, collecting revenue on a bus that they weren't reporting to us. So you have to have that listing. So at any time, if there's, like Ivana mentioned, there's roughly 530 buses, but they have to keep 5% available for city use. And then a lot of the Zoom buses don't have advertising. So there might be 400 buses that advertise. If they're saying that there's 20 buses that they're not collecting on, we have to have that kind of level of detail. So if we're at Sandalwood, we can go out there and we can look at these bus numbers and say, okay, they're right. There's no advertising on these buses. So that's what we weren't getting, is that kind of, we were getting a list of all the revenue, but not details of the specific bus number.
Okay. And then you said there's three vendors that we use, and it's only the one vendor that wasn't providing us with the details?
The other 2 vendors were for the benches, and we didn't spend a lot of time on the benches. The benches for the whole year is about $100,000 in revenue. The shelters were providing that. The shelters provide the specific asset number of the shelter, and they also provide the GPS coordinates, like the intersection, the location. So it's very easy to track. But with the buses, we weren't being provided the revenue details at the bus level. So benches and shelters were good, but the vendor for the buses wasn't fulfilling their contractual obligation to provide those 2 reports.
And for how long?
Certainly, we didn't get it in the audit period, which started in 2022. Actually, sorry, we only looked at, for this particular, we only looked at 2024 statements. So I'm not sure how far back that went, but I do believe the RFP was signed and in place in 2023.
Okay, can we go back and just have a look and see, if they started, if that's how it started with that vendor? They weren't providing that information?
Sure.
Can we just ask that question?
We can
Okay.
get back to you.
Yeah.
through the chair.
Through the chair, just for clarity, we'll get back on that. But the vendors are required to be independently audited as well, their financial statements, which we receive from them. So
We will receive from them?
we
or
do
have?
receive from them.
We do.
Yeah, they are required as part of our agreements with them to be independently audited and receive those audit information annually.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. So I did have some questions covered pretty much on both sides of me here. I do want to touch a little bit on people getting on the bus without paying. I go back to an experience I had not too long ago, early in the morning, where my car was broke down. I said, hey, you know what, I'm going to walk, and it started pouring rain, so I'm going to jump on the bus. I called Councillor Paleshi to ask him what bus comes at what time, can you help me out? So we had a conversation as I walked to a bus stop, realized I had no money, so I ran into the gas station, ended up missing the bus, getting on the bus to realize I can use a tap. And the whole time I was standing there without money, going, maybe I'll just say, I don't have any money to get on the bus, get me to City Hall, and I can then come out and pay you for the bus. And this conversation has me thinking about that compassionate part for drivers when you run into a scenario of someone's not actually trying to catch a free ride, they're just caught in a hard time. And I think that has to be taken into account. And when I was on the bus, and I did tap my card and I didn't have to ask to let me on, there was a gentleman that got on, and there was an argument about the transfer that this young gentleman had. The bus driver wasn't allowing it. I found it easy to walk up, pull out a different card, and just tap it for him to keep the bus going. And that in that one instance that I had on that bus, the one time that I've probably taken the bus in 10 years, really kind of captures a different view from maybe what's being audited or how you can put people in place. And then I think about, what is it going to cost us to have somebody there deciphering what it is, what we can do, what we can't do, what are the guidelines about, what the drivers are supposed to do, how much they're getting involved, what is compassion, what is someone trying to, sneak on multiple times a bad person or whatever it may be. So I think it's a very complex situation. I don't think it's as easy as we looked at it, we were on this one. And I believe that from my one experience, I was looking for a free ride to City Hall because I didn't know that I could tap a credit card. And on that same bus had somebody that was in a dispute. And I was on a bus once in 10 years. So I think there's a lot more that we need to look into, a lot more that needs to be put into this. And it's not as easy as Mississauga's putting security guards on their buses. Maybe they have, more, problems with it or whatever it may be to catch this. I just feel that there is going to be a cost associated to it. Is that cost going to benefit us, or is it going to cost us more money? Obviously, we're down in ridership this year, significant numbers. I can't see something that I would support. I think maybe the people that used to try to get on the bus may not be here anymore, and I don't know if those issues are going to come or go. So I'll wait to see how it gets managed through transit. I think you guys do a great job in mitigating these. I think the drivers do a great job, just from my experience itself. So I will leave that ramble there. And I hope to be on the buses more now that I know I can just tap a credit card and call Councillor Paleshi at 6 a.m. to find my bus route. So with all of that, let me just get my agenda that I was writing on.
I just asked my daughter.
Through the chair, I just want to respond to Councillor Keenan. I think you're correct. It is a very complex issue. So that's why our recommendation is very soft. We didn't say that go ahead and do it. Do a pilot program, or actually do the study first, the analysis, and then if it's necessary for certain routes. We did notice there's big difference between different routes. Some routes, zero. Some routes is as high as 8%, what we observed. So for certain routes, if they decided it's useful, they can then go through the pilot program. We said consider doing that. We didn't say that with a hard recommendation like we normally would put forward because of how complex the situation could be, right? Okay, thanks.
No, thank you for that. Okay, with no more questions or comments, I have a motion moved by Councillor Paleshi to receive and approve the staff report. All those in favor? That motion carries. And that will bring us to 6.3 and it was on consent. 7.1 we dealt with. Did we do that at the same, we did that during the presentation, didn't we receive that at the same time? We did, right? Okay. Public question period. Is there any questions from the public? None here, any online? No, seeing none. Okay. That brings us to closed session. Our next item of business, item 11, closed session. I have a motion moved by Councillor Vicente to move into closed session to deal with the following items. 11.1, presentation regarding Brampton's Public Library, executive presentation. 11.2, Brampton Public Library Cybersecurity Audit 2025. 11.3, a presentation by Claire for Management Action Plans, Validation 2020 IT and Cybersecurity. And 11.4, Management Action Plans, Validation 2025 ID and Cybersecurity. All those in favor? That carries. Madam Clerk, how long do you need? We will be in open session in 10 minutes, which will be a closed session in 10 minutes, which will be 11:11. Thank you. Okay, thank you. In continued interest of transparency in open government, I will report out in public session any outcomes from today's closed session business. 11.1 was considered, no direction was given. 11.2 was considered, direction was given. 11.3 considered, no direction given. 11.4 was considered, and I believe Councillor Paleshi, you have a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd like to put a motion forward that instructs IT staff conduct quarterly third-party assessments of the risk posture ratings and align definitions, bless you, and risks with enterprise risk management matrix.
Okay, so we have a motion moved by Councillor Paleshi, as you can see it on the screen. All those in favor? That motion carries. That brings us to item 12, which is adjournment. Our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026 at 9:30 a.m. I have a motion moved by Member Russell to adjourn today's meeting. All those in favor? The motion carries. Have a wonderful Christmas and New Year's, everybody in Audit. Thank you for all your hard work. Sorry, and there's a